Hi, what I wanted to talk about in this video is just different ways you can kind of smooth your playing a little bit. What you normally think about doing when you're playing the guitar is if you play a note, you pick it, then you pick another note, then you pick another note, and so on. But there's other ways to move between the notes rather than just picking and fretting each time. I'll show you three techniques in this video. First one is sliding, and then I'll talk about hammer-ons and pull-offs, which are quite closely related. Sliding, as the name suggests, basically you're just sliding the finger from one note to the other. So if you're thinking about playing, say, a G here, followed by an A, you could play it like that, one note after the other. But another way of doing it would just be to move your finger from the G up to the A, just to slide. Okay, now there's nothing to say that going between two notes in any given way is, say, right or wrong, or one way is better than the other. Really, it's just about the kind of feel that you're trying to get in the piece that you're playing. But having techniques in your vocabulary like sliding between notes rather than just straightforward picking transitions means your playing can be a little bit more smoother, more fluid. Yeah. Something like this. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward, sliding between notes. You can slide up, you can slide down, just a way of moving between notes. Now the other two things I want to talk about are hammer-ons and pull-offs. These are quite closely related. I'll talk about hammer-ons first because they're probably slightly easier to do. These are techniques. It's a bit like if you've been playing for a while and you think back to how hard it was when you first started trying to fret notes on the guitar neck. And gosh, you had to really push down hard and felt like you were working really hard at it. But if you think about it, when you're playing now, it feels like you're hardly putting any pressure on the neck at all. Hammer-ons and pull-offs are a little bit like that. You'll be really conscious of what you're doing when you're trying to use this technique at first, but as you get more used to it, it will just come really natural, and it should feel a lot more relaxed. Hammer-on, as the name suggests, is basically hammering, bringing your finger down onto a string to make it sound. So we've got a G note here, and I could go up to an A note here. But what I could do, rather than picking that A, is having sounded the G, just bring my finger down with enough force that it actually makes the string ring out. Okay, now the opposite of a hammer-on is a pull-off. Well, what you're doing there is you're picking the higher note of the two, and then you take your finger off without actually picking the string. And you go down to the lower note. Now it's not a straightforward lifting of the finger off the string. What you should be doing is ever so slightly plucking the string with your fretting hand as you take your finger off. Hammer-ons and pull-offs can be, combined together, and quite often you can hear them being played as very fast hammer-on, pull-off combinations of the same notes, and that's what's called a trill. Something like this. Okay, we've been talking about there just like hammering on from one note to another, pulling off from one note to another. But obviously you could have multiple hammer-ons, pull-offs in a sequence. If you think about a pattern, say with say 3 notes per string, you could pull off from one note to another to another. And another extension to that is, as well as using your fretting hand, using your picking hand for hammer-ons and pull-offs as well, two-handed tapping. Okay, so there's 3 techniques you can use, sliding, hammer-ons and pull-offs, to make your playing a little bit more fluid, different ways of moving between the notes. Now the musical term for that is legato, like smooth playing. Now those techniques are all based around your fretting hand. There's another thing which I'll just briefly mention, and that's something that you can do with your picking hand, and it's sweep picking. Now, sweep picking is a whole subject in its own right, but I'll just mention the idea briefly here. Normally when you're picking, you'll be thinking about playing with a fairly strict down, up, down, up, down, up motion with your picking hand. The idea of sweep picking is that you move your pick across a number of strings, fretting a note on each string. So like with a down, 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 or an up, up, up motion as you go across the strings. And that can allow you to smooth things off a little bit. So rather than playing something like, you can play, and it allows you to move more fluidly between the notes. Now you might think that what I'm playing there basically is just a strum, and in a way it kind of is. What I'll do is I'll just show you. I don't normally get into like teaching licks and stuff like that. I thought what I'll do is I'll show you kind of like a little legato lick that demonstrates using Hammer-Ons, pull-offs, slides, and started off with a little sweep as well. So I'm thinking about playing something along the lines of this. Okay, so just to start off with, I'll play the lick through, so like at a normal sort of speed. And let's take that apart and show you what I'm actually playing. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm starting off with an E minor 7 arpeggio, ring finger on the 3rd string at the 9th fret, middle finger on the 2nd string at the 8th fret, and the index finger on the 1st string at the 7th fret, and playing those 3 notes with one smooth downstroke with the picking hand. And then what I'm doing is I'm hammering on with my little finger at the 10th fret to complete an E minor 7 arpeggio. Then what I'm doing is basically a series of pull-offs from the 10th to the 8th to the 7th fret. Then going down the string to the B string at the 8th fret and sliding down to the 7th fret and pulling off to the 5th. Then on the 3rd string, playing at the 7th fret, pulling off to the 5th, pulling off to the 4th, down to the 4th string at the 5th fret, and sliding up to the A. Okay, so playing that through slowly, you get something like this. Okay, so that's just a fairly simple lick there using the 4 techniques that we've talked about: Hammer-Ons, pull-offs, slides, and a little bit of sweep picking with the right hand. As I say, there's the whole load of like stuff we can talk about on sweep picking because it's quite a broad technique, but that's just a simple concept there, using the pick with the same downward motion across a number of strings. And as with anything that you try and learn, concentrate on getting the technique right. Don't just go in and try and play it as fast as you possibly can. Try and play it right, and then as you get more proficient and more comfortable, the speed will come. And as I said before, some of these techniques you might find they're a bit of a struggle now. You might find that you really have to hammer on very hard with your fretting hand, or you might find that you're really putting a lot of exertion into doing a pull-off. It's one of those things. The more you practice, it will actually become really smooth, really almost like second nature. And a little while you'll look back on how you're playing it now and think, wow, why was it ever so difficult? Because really, it should end up being quite a nice, smooth, relaxed motion. But it's just a case of playing, taking your time, practicing, and then getting proficient with the technique. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. So there's some techniques you can incorporate into your own playing. Experiment with them, see what you can do, and as always, have fun, which is the main thing about playing the guitar. Okay, so that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video sometime soon. Bye for now.